All right, look, we've been on air now for almost 10 years, and we have over 20 workout programs. We've actually helped tens of thousands of people get in better shape. We often get the question, which MAPS programs are essential? So in today's episode, we're going to talk about the top four. The four MAPS programs everybody should have.
Hey, the four horsemen of MAPS.
This is it. So I think before we get into them, so MAPS, for people who don't know, that's an acronym that stands for Muscular Adaptation Programming System. And really it's just, we try to create programs. We have an avatar in our mind when we're writing a program, and then we create the program based off of that avatar, whether it's a person who needs correctional exercise, a bodybuilder, someone who's interested in athletic performance, whatever. And then we write the program based around that. So we have all these different programs we've created over the years, many of them very, very popular. But like I said in the intro, a lot of people are like, okay, what are the most important ones? What are the ones I can go without? I think that's an important thing to talk about. And again, these are workout programs that you essentially have everything you need to follow. It's like reps, sets, exercises, technique, the whole deal. And also, like, what am I going to get from this program? What are the strengths and what are the weaknesses? Because there is no perfect program that gives you everything. Every program has a strength, but every program also, because of its strength, has a weakness. So it's important to understand that.
I don't know why every time you say what MAP stands for, it reminds me when I was a kid and I used to tell people what I did for work in high school, that I was a bovine mammary extraction technician.
Yeah.
It sounds like a really
Sounds like you're churching it up.
It sounds very churching it up.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? It sounds like overcomplicated.
Screw the adaptation programming system.
We kept the name.
It's a great name. I love.
Well, I mean, the strengths and weaknesses is an important thing to talk about because a program that does really good at one thing typically, I mean, you can't get everything. Is the thing to understand here? You can't do everything with a single program, and so it's important to understand that if you plan on exercising and being fit for the rest of your life.
I also think that, I mean, coming from the business perspective on why did we choose to sell digital programs as like the primary source of income for the business, and it was where the greatest of opportunity was. I think it actually took me at least 10 years of my career to really feel like I understood programming at a deep enough level that I could help anybody. Mm-hmm. Like I think I thought I knew what I was doing in my early years, and like maybe the first 5 years, thought I knew because I had the certs, the experience of training some people, got myself in good shape. It took a solid decade before I think I really understood the complexity of it and simplicity at the same time.
Yeah.
And then also the behavioral aspect and adherence of the average person and why that mattered. And so the audience knows, like, one of the formulas that has made this business so successful is these live callers that we call in, and you see we give away a program every time, right? We give away a program at the beginning of every show. We give away programs, at least 4 of them at minimum, every single qual that we do. And yet that's the main source of income. And the reason why we can do that is because I think so many people don't realize, like I think I didn't realize even as a trainer, how powerful good programming is, and how many of us discount, like, well, it's all just exercises, and it's
Can't
just
you find
like
this in a magazine, and there's lots of options for that online out there,
right? And like, does it really matter the order of operation as long as I train hard and push myself in the gym? Like,
it's all movement.
Yeah,
it's all body parts.
Yeah, I'm getting a pump. I'm like, I mean, so I really think that we oversimplify the importance of good programming for many reasons. For the adherence, for the results part, for learning the right dose, right? I think it's very common in the fitness fanatic space, the over application of intensity. I think that this took a long time to get here, and the very first one, like, that we're going to cover, I know that these are the 4 that I think we agree that everybody should own. Everybody should go through.
Today's giveaway on YouTube is MAPS Anabolic Advanced. To enter to win, leave a comment below this video in the first 24 hours that we drop it. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. And if you do all of that, we will let you know in the comment section if you won. Now, this episode is brought to you by a sponsor, NASM. This is the world's best. This is the premier personal training certification. This is the certification that all other training certifications aspire to be like. And among their certifications, one of the most valuable one is their correctional exercise specialist. This one will separate you from your peers. It's a tough cert. You got to be smart to follow it, pass it. But if you do, you are going to be head and shoulders above and beyond the other trainers in your gym. This is going to teach you how to do correctional exercise, how to alleviate pain, get people to move better, and assess people properly. And if you go through our link, NASMPT, you can get 50% off, half off of the CES certification. So you go to NASMPT.com, but then you have to use the code MPMCESS. Again, it's MPMCESS, and the site is NASMPT.com. That's 50% off the CES certification. Also, today's episode, we talk about the 4 MAPS workout programs you should definitely own and follow for the next 72 hours. They're 50% off, okay? Here's what you do if you want to get one of those and get the 50% off. Go to mapsfitnessproducts.com and then use the code TOP4, T-O-P, and the number 4 for the 50% off. All right, here comes the show.
The first one, I can't stress this enough because I also think this is a major area that people miss. Also think it was when we all got together, because MAPS Anabolic was created by Sal before we all met each other. MAPS Prime, which is the first one we'll talk about, was, I think, not the first program we created together, but the first one I think we were most proud of.
Mm-hmm. I would still say that today. It was the one that stumped us.
Yeah.
There was a moment there with creating the program where we actually had to, I think we took a break because we couldn't figure out how to get around a major challenge. You know, with programming, and it's funny that we look at workouts like it's just movement. It doesn't matter. Your workout oftentimes is a difference between really good results and no results or injury. And you mentioned intensity. It's the difference between an effective workout and a not effective workout is not one is hard and one isn't. Mm-hmm. That's why often people think, well, if I work out hard enough, then it doesn't matter. Well, if that's the case, then you can do anything and just sweat. It'll make a difference. The irony of this, by the way, is the strength sports that have a long pedigree of competition, like Olympic weightlifting, the amount of time, energy, and science that goes into programming into that is insane. Mm-hmm. And people just don't realize that. They think, oh, they're just doing exercises. No, it makes a huge difference. And as a trainer, there's lots of things that make a trainer successful. The number one thing is how well you work with people and how well you can work with getting them to change behavior. Yeah. But the second most important thing, which is still up there, is how to program effectively. How can I make this time that we're spending together effective so you get great results? And it's not just because I train you super hard. That's what I used to think. I used to think it's just exercises for body parts and its intensity. So they come in, I'm going to make them work out, get them real sweaty and sore, and then boom, they got their money's worth. No, when I understood programming later on, I saw my clients progress so consistently that it blew everybody's mind. Yeah. And it was all about the program. It was all about how the workout was created, written, and put together.
Well, I think too, getting back to MAPS Prime, the difference, we were looking at with this was we were addressing workout program. We were addressing like an avatar of needs in terms of like somebody trying to pursue a performance path, somebody trying to pursue a muscle building path, fat loss, that kind of thing. What we all knew collectively is that like our biggest value as personal trainers was to be able to I hate to use the word diagnose because we're not, doctors, but it's really like individualize it, figure out like those very specific needs and tailor the process of, addressing that correctively or alleviating pain or, optimizing, squeezing and maximizing potential of performance to a degree that you could never do unless you really do sort of the unsexy, really mundane kind of work.
Yeah, look, I'll back it up. I'll back it up to something super simple. How do you know if an exercise is right for me? Well, number one, can you perform it properly with good control, stability, technique? Do you own the exercise? That's number one. But number two is it the right exercise for you? Because you might be able to do an exercise well, but it's not the right one for you right now because it's strengthening areas that we actually don't need to strengthen as much as other areas that we need to focus on even more. Because if we just do this exercise and we do it really well, it'll actually make things worse for you. Like your shoulder hurts right now. Okay, well, this exercise over here is the wrong one for you. In fact, it's going to make your problem worse based off of the way that you move. And so the way that trainers do this is you do an assessment, and really challenging because an assessment is so individual. So how do we create a program that lets people assess themselves? Nobody has these people don't have a personal training background. They don't have a background in correctional exercise.
Right.
So the sticking point where we got stumped was this
is complicated.
How do we create something where somebody has a tool that they can use to essentially assess themselves, and then based off of that, pick the right movements for themselves. And so with MAPS Prime, the reason why this is number one, first of all, it's the one thing that everybody will benefit from. Doesn't matter what your goal is. I don't care if
level.
Doesn't matter. Beginner, advanced,
any
build
pursuit,
muscle,
any
burn
sport,
fat,
anything.
Doesn't matter. Because MAPS Prime, you do what's called a compass test. Based off that test, you are directed towards priming movements. These are movements you do before your workout that will make you move better based off of what you need, okay? Based off of what your specific body needs, that's how you know. And so when you prime properly, the rest of your workout is more effective. Everything you do in the workout is better. All the technique is better. All the form is better. More muscle fiber activation, less risk of injury. It's like taking any workout you're doing and increasing its effectiveness by 10 to 30%.
Supercharging it.
Simply because you prime properly. So that's what MAPS Prime is. And MAPS Prime is not a workout program by itself, but rather one you use to make whatever workout you're doing that much more effective. If you're a trainer or coach, MAPS Prime is, invaluable. Like if you're a trainer or coach, if I was a trainer, I would own MAPS Prime, and this would be how I'd assess my clients, and this is how I would show my value.
Well, this was the part I personally found so ironic about the digital workout space. There's a plethora of companies that have created digital workout programs on the internet. We're not short of that. The thing I found so ironic was there is something that if you talk to any trainer, definitely any trainer worth their salt, but I would say almost all trainers, even ones that aren't that great, would tell you is, what do you do on the very first day you meet a client? There's something that we all did. Unless you were horrible, like you'd have to be a horrible trainer to day one, just take a person out and just start working them out.
That's terrible.
And by the way, for the listener, if you hire a trainer,
that's a red flag.
That is the first massive red flag is if a trainer, day one, they just met you and they just go straight into doing exercises with you. That is a shitty trainer. Like the bare bones trainer with the bare minimum education should know that I need to assess my client first. I need to do a PAR Q. I need to check their movement. I need to ask them questions about their aches and pains. I need to watch the way they squat and move their arms above their head. Like that's like every good trainer does on day one. Yet nobody addresses that. Yeah. Like everybody writes programs and skips that part. And it was like, how are we skipping? And what we would argue is maybe the most important part of the entire programming is I need to first see what my client is capable of. Any sort of breakdowns in these very basic movements, which that was another area that we had to distill, right? Is like how do we take this very complex body that moves in all these different planes and should be capable of so many different movements and simplify it down to 3 zones and make it easy enough that the average person could comprehend what are we trying to look for, and then give them things to do to help improve that movement.
Yeah, so essentially with Prime, you do 3 tests and then you pass or fail, and then depending on what happens with those tests, it directs you to movements that you can use for your individual body as a way to quote unquote warm up, but more more specifically prime your body for your workout. And however effective your workout is, however effective the exercises are that you do, they're gonna be that much more effective because now you have primed properly. And that's why that's number one, because it goes with all of them. The second program is MAPS Anabolic, and Adam mentioned it. It's the core, foundational, original MAPS program. And the reason why it's here is because when it comes to just pure build strength, build general muscle, speed up the metabolism, reverse diet, build a good, strong foundation of muscle on the body, MAPS Anabolic is the best program. It covers the most important basic compound lifts. It gets you to do them in a very effective way. It is the most appropriate amount of volume and frequency and intensity for most people. 85% of people would do best with a MAPS Anabolic style type workout. This is the program that's most responsible for people who email in and say, oh my God, my mind is blown. I built so much muscle, or I reverse dieted. My metabolism is so much faster. That's what this program is. Now, the weakness of MAPS Anabolic is because it's so good at just overall building strength, muscle, speeding up the metabolism, and then, of course, as a side effect, fat loss, it does lack in movement in different planes and rotation. And so what'll end up happening if you follow this program over and over again, which this is the program that most people make the mistake of following over and over again, is you start to develop imbalances because you don't train in these other planes of motion. It's a full body workout. You're in the gym 2 or 3 days a week. Most people do best with 2 days a week. And then on the off days, it includes a little bit of movement for the rest of the body just to facilitate recovery. This program right here is the one that tends to, when we get new listeners who then sign up for a MAPS program for the first time and they get MAPS Anabolic, this is the one that blows everyone's mind.
And the thing is, why we usually point people here, I mean, it's your foundational strength. It's the building blocks for wherever you want to go. Like the foundation for all your movement pursuits, like it's strength based. Strength is going to serve you very well going on in pursuing things aesthetically, pursuing things performance wise, even endurance wise. Like if you build up your body's foundational strength to a level that is really solid, as well as build that muscle, build that structure, to support that. This is the best option in terms of, like, this is, as you say, our biggest shovel. If you want to look at it as shovels to dig a hole, this is the biggest shovel program that we're going to have.
This is the program that brought us all together. If it wasn't for the programming that Sal had put into MAPS Anabolic, I don't know if we would have ever got together. And the reason for me, at least, why that's true is because when Sal showed me the programming, or he first showed me the sales pitch for it, right? So Doug and him had created basically their online marketing pitch for it. And it was like this long video on basically where people screw up in programming and everything, and basically what the nuts and bolts of this was. I instantly picked up the phone and said, I want to meet with you. I want to talk with you. And the reason why that was because at this point, I'm like, 10, 15 years into my career. And I'm actually just realizing, I'm just getting to the point where I had just started to piece together, like, oh my God, for so many years, I've been trying to dazzle my clients with creative exercises or push them through all this stuff, or just trying to burn body fat off of them, and programming terribly. And the truth, to Justin's point, that strength is the pursuit, is the foundation of all pursuits, no matter what your goal is, whether it is to look a certain way, to move a certain way. Strength is that. The best movements to get strong like that are organized the way MAPS Anabolic is, are put in a set of volume that is in that program, not overdoing it like crazy, like we probably all did for experience. I had just got to that place in my career where I was starting to figure that out. And all of my clients, no matter what their goal was, I was starting them with a routine like that. And it was this aha moment for me, like, oh shit, this guy gets it. It took me my whole career to get here. Like, this is exactly what I've been trying to communicate to my current clientele of, like, I had been doing this stuff so wrong for so long. And honestly, the power of seeing more results faster is focusing on these movements that you all probably knew. You just probably were doing too much of it, or abandoning it, or doing way too much of all the other crap that didn't really matter. And here it is. This is what it should look like. That's what brought us all together.
Yeah.
And it 100% is why this whole thing has done so well, is because you give that program, we get people to start in that, and they go, you know what, let me try this out. These guys have this 30-day money back guarantee. You know, is it really that? And the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
People train, they go through that program, and it blows their mind. And what blows their mind is the simplicity of it, is that, oh my God, I'm not having to train as much as I used to. I'm doing less exercises, less days, and I'm seeing more results. And now now they're bought in. Now people go, okay, now I'm all ears. What else do you guys have to say about exercise science?
Yeah, this is the program that if you haven't done a MAPS program before, if you haven't followed any of our programs before, and you work out on your own, and then you follow this, what you can expect are strength gains like you haven't seen before. You're going to probably hit some PRs. You're going to build muscle. It's going to feel like you're not, like people will write in and be like, I'm building muscle, and it's like just happening, because they're so used to having to scrape and push for every little ounce of muscle, or a faster metabolism. People will write in and say, I'm getting leaner. I didn't realize I could get so much leaner on a strength training program. The title Anabolic, the reason why I named it, not a great marketing name, by the way. I was a trainer when I wrote it.
Lessons we've learned.
But I called it Anabolic because the goal was like, how can we really organize the signals that we send our body through strength training to make it more anabolic than catabolic, or keep it in this anabolic state where it wants to build muscle. So that's what the program is all about. So that's what you get with MAPS Anabolic. Now, the next program that is an absolute must is definitely a must, because the weaknesses that you see in MAPS Anabolic, however great it is at building muscle, sculpting the body, speeding up the metabolism, etc., MAPS Performance tackles the weaknesses of MAPS Anabolic so beautifully and eloquently. Like, MAPS Performance is a strength training program who the primary focus, the number one focus of performance is you're going to move well. You're going to move well. You're going to move like a well-oiled machine. You're not going to have pain. Your joints are going to be very supported. You're going to still be very strong. You're going to have good reactive strength. You're going to move in different planes of motion. In other words, the strength that you build in the gym is going to translate so well to everything else that you do. And if you're an athlete, this is an absolute must. And if you're a trainer and you want to understand athletic training, you want to know how to strength train for athletes, this is the program that's going to teach you that kind of programming. But yeah, MAPS Performance is a beautiful follow-up to Anabolic, because you're going to see, you'll feel it. You'll go through performance and you'll notice those weaknesses, and then they'll become strengths.
Well, this is our first baby together, right? This is the first program that we created, and the way we approached it is exactly the way you just presented that. Is we looked at MAPS Anabolic and said, okay, as amazing as this program as it is, and why we think most people, if not all people, should start here, especially if you've never ran any of our programs, what does the perfect follow-up to that look like? What does it look like? Where are the holes? Where can we improve upon that? And that's unilateral work, multi-planar movements, rotational components to it, doing movements that's neglected in Anabolic. And the mistake that I think people make is, well, okay, well then why not take some of those movements and just combine it and throw it inside?
That's not how programming works.
Anabolic is, and that's not how programming works. It's like, we're far better off pursuing strength, building a metabolism, laying a solid foundation. It's just like saying to somebody who's building a house, going like, well, why don't you start the framing while the cement's drying for the foundation at the same time? It's like, that was ridiculous. You would never do that. It's the same concept. It's like, let's lay a really solid foundation. Let's make sure it's level. Let's make sure it's perfect. Then we're going to go frame the sucker up. And so that's the same thing with the way these programs are laid out. It's MAPS Anabolic lays that solid foundation. MAPS Performance is now the bones, the structure, the framing of this house that we're going to go build.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like MAPS Anabolic is the perfect focus. So we don't want to get too far away from sending that really focused signal to the body that we want to build muscle and strength. Like this is our ultimate goal and pursuit. Now, where are some of those deficits in terms of if you're doing that for long term? This is what we're going to address in performance, where different ranges of motion, we're not exposing as much, we're not rotating as much, we're not moving laterally, and so these are all different potentials that we need to strengthen. And so to have strength in those exercises, but also then if we want to apply this all together and move effectively with power and strength and control, how do we put this all together? And so what was really cool about this was with Sal already had created MAPS Anabolic, there was a bit of a formula there in terms of like how we handled foundational workout days. And then in between we had these frequency builders, and it was like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because we used to just call it active recovery. And my background's a little bit more on the performance side. And so I would do a lot of this kind of stuff with athletes, and it was like, this makes perfect sense. Let's focus on some mobility. Let's, work in these different planes with low intensity to moderate intensity. Let's get active recovery, blood flow. And now let's get back to, getting strong and moving really effectively. So yeah, this was the great follow-up.
Yeah. And you're also going to get a good stamina and strength endurance component with performance, which you don't get in anabolic. I mean, you get a little bit maybe in phase 3, but performance is going to give you a bigger gas tank. And then there's a focus on mobility, and mobility really is you're learning how to move your joints through their fullest ranges of motion with good control and good stability. So this, what it does is it opens the door for more movements, more ranges of motion. Essentially your toolbox gets bigger because you're able to put more tools in there, because now you can move better, which is what performance helps provide.
I also want to point out that when we created all these, there was another desired outcome that we had too, because the intent wasn't just to help people with good programming. There's also like an educational component that I think we all were trying to seek out. It was like there's this dual component of like, if we were trainers, what would we have wanted to? So not only getting good programs, but then like educating us along the way. And so that's why there's a lot of content that's put in to these programs, because we also recognize that there's no such thing as a cookie cutter program for everybody. Mm-hmm. And the goal is that if you run through these programs and you truly try and to adopt the philosophy, learn and understand what we're trying to teach you, you can then start to mold them more specifically for your needs. And I really feel like performance is an example of this, and so is Prime, right? Prime has this individual component of figuring out these movements that are specific to you. And then the mobility sessions and performance, there's all these different mobility options that we teach you and show you. But the more familiar you get with these mobility movements, the more familiar you get with understanding what priming is for, the more you can start to choose the right mobility moves, the right priming moves, to really start to form these workouts to be very customized to you. And that was our way of going like, how do we take something that we create for the masses, even though we know no one program should be followed by the masses, is that's the educational component. That's the flexibility of the mobility exercises that we have in performance and all the different priming movements in there. And sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming for someone who just started, they don't understand. But the more you go through these, the more you pay attention to all the education that comes with it, the more you listen to the podcast to complement this, the more you should start to understand like, okay, I get why we have all these mobility exercises, and now I understand how I choose these mobility exercises that are specific to my needs. And now you take a program that's malleable. You take a program that we wrote that has these bones and structure, but that you start to mold it to where it now becomes this customizable program for you.
Now, the last program was one we created later on. Anabolic, Prime, and Performance we wrote relatively early on in Mind Pump's history. MAPS Symmetry we wrote much later on, and this one was I really enjoyed creating this one. What was interesting is what we started to see, and really this became solidified after we launched MAPS Symmetry and people followed it, was when we were trainers, DEXA scans weren't really a thing. I don't remember really doing those with clients, and they're pretty interesting because a DEXA scan allows you to see the difference in fat mass and lean body mass as it's distributed throughout the body. And what you typically find, and this is normal, okay, is that if you do a DEXA scan, highly trained individuals, people who strength train a lot or whatever, you still see this right to left difference. You would still see like more lean body mass on the right arm than the left arm, more lean body mass on the left quad than the right quad or whatever. Now, as trainers, we observed movement pattern issues. There's always a difference between right and left. And it became very glaring when you would have people do unilateral exercises or exercises where they're just using one side. So we created MAP Symmetry as a way to balance things out. And here's what we found. What we found was when you train in a way to specifically train symmetry or work on symmetry, and a lot of this revolves around what's known as unilateral training, one arm or one side at a time. So rather than using a barbell, it's a dumbbell, but it's one side at a time, okay? What you end up finding is you build more muscle because the body aims to balance itself out. You actually send the signal to balance it out. And so when you have this half a pound of lean body mass difference on the right arm versus the left arm, 1 pound of lean body mass difference on the left leg versus the right leg, the back, there's a little bit more musculature on the left than the right. You actually build more overall muscle because they're not working within their natural movement patterns whenever they grab a barbell or do the traditional exercise, which most strength training revolves around bilateral exercises. Even with dumbbells, people doing bilaterally, both at the same time. So MAP Symmetry was created to create balance in the body simultaneously. It's one of the best, and I don't want to say accidental because that was the goal, but it is one of the best correctional strength training programs as well, because when you train one side versus the other, different
sneaky part.
Oh boy, you get the differences become glaring. Yeah. But then here's what happens: they catch up really fast. Yeah. This is one of the beauties of strength training is when you pick an exercise. You've been training for a long time. You're strong. You work out. You know how to strength train. You've been doing it for years. You need to find a new exercise. You go do it and you suck at it. What's great about the fact that you suck at it is you're about to get newbie gains. You're about to gain strength very rapidly because it's a brand new exercise that your body is learning. There's a lot of gains in the learning process. If you recall, when you first started strength training, you gained strength every single week. It was like, what's going on? That lasted for like at least a few months. Well, MAP Symmetry taps into that. And then this is the crazy part. We got people after following MAP Symmetry who send in their DEXA scans and they'd be like, yeah, I had more lean body mass on this side than that side, more here or there. Everything's balanced out now after the 3-month, program. So that's what Symmetry is all about. It's all about training the body to make it symmetrical, both in movement and aesthetics. And it's got to be one of the most recommended programs. I would say when we get live callers, that's one of the top programs.
Well, that was the inception of it, right? I mean, and that's the cool part is like, as we've been doing more of these live calls and we've doing more of these Q&As, we find out where the needs are. And this is why it's so great that we're so interactive with you guys and the audience. We find out, like, we keep recommending similar things continuously. And one of them was like unilateral training. It's like, oh my God, we need you to stop with the barbell for a while. And I want you to work with the dumbbells and I want you to do it this way. And we're going to spend time on one side of the body specifically and build up, because there's an imbalance there and an instability. And really that instability, that's the corrective side. That's the sneaky part. We're actually strengthening and correcting and helping you to function at a higher level, through this program. But also we're addressing like building up certain parts of your body, like building and developing and sculpting your body. So you're more of a symmetrical, aesthetically pleasing physique. So it's like kind of a dual purpose to this program. And I think that's why it's so unique.
Well, let me wrap this up by explaining how this episode was created, right? So Sal's desired outcome when he wrote this was like, okay, if we were to pick the least amount of programs that of all of our programs that we have that you would want in your tool belt to be able to help any and every client that you would ever have as a trainer, what would be the minimum programs that you would need? Absolutely. And so when you think about all the ones that we just went over, like if I just had these 4, I could literally help anybody.
Yeah.
It does not matter what your goal is. Yep. If these was the only resources I had, this would cover that. And Symmetry filled the final gap of everything that we've talked about before, because there's 2 major components that the other ones lacked that this one has. One that no one has addressed yet, which is the isometric component.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We used a lot of that in training as a trainer. Many times I had clients that couldn't connect to a muscle, didn't understand, or I had to regress them so far back they had to start at an isometric position. And so before Symmetry, we had not built that into any of our program. Yet we knew that we used that all the time with clients. The other one was addressing these major imbalances. So no matter what I had clients' goals, many times when I see them move the barbell, I see there was a major discrepancy from left to right. No matter what their goal is, whether they want to compete on stage, lose 500 pounds, it doesn't matter. If they had this major discrepancy from left to right, I had to address that. I had to fix that. And that was really the birth of Symmetry, was a program that was really designed to fix that. And when you think back to all the people that we trained, that was the majority. I mean, rarely ever did I take a client through a program and not at one point have to pivot and go, oh, you know what? We're dropping the barbell for a while. We need to do some unilateral work because I see some asymmetry going on here, and we need to balance this body out because that's starting to cause issues down the kinetic chain. And that's might be why you have this chronic pain that we can't get rid of, is because you're not balanced. And so let's go balance that out. What did that look like? It looked like MAP Symmetry. And so when I look at these 4 programs that I think every person should own, every person should go through, and absolutely, if you're a trainer, you should have all these, is these 4 are literally the ones that, like, okay, if I got these,
Covers all the bases.
it covers everything. There is not a problem.
Aesthetic, performance, fat loss, muscle building, beginner, intermediate, advanced. It covers the whole thing.
It does. If I have got these in my tool belt, there is not a single thing that I'm going to hit as a trainer with a client problem that I can't use some of the tools that are built into each one of these programs.
All right, so look, here's what we're doing because of this episode. We're going to put all that, we've never done this before, except for like the occasional Black Friday, once a year type sale. All of the programs we just talked about for the next 72 hours are 50% off, every single one of them. So here's how you do it. You go to mapsfitnessproducts.com, you pick the one you want, and then you use the code TOP4, TOP4. That gives you 50% off. That's going to last for the next 72 hours. You can reuse that code for all the programs. If you want to get every single one, you go back in, you get another one, go back and get another one. That code will continue to work. So again, 72 hours, mapsfitnessproducts.com. Click on the one you want. Top 4 is the discount for 50% off. You can also find all of us on social media. Justin is on Instagram at MindPumpJustin. I'm on Instagram at MindPumpDeStefano, and Adam is on Instagram at MindPumpAdam.